right, I'm going to talk about Hannah. Does anybody know who Hannah is? Hannah in the Bible. I'm going to talk about this mom. Can you believe it? On Mother's Day. And I just want to share this word because as I was studying it, I just saw this picture of, of course it's Mother's Day. I want to speak about an amazing mom, a mom that changed, the course of Israel, basically, because of her faith and because of her trust in God. And I think that's amazing. But it's not just for moms. It's for all of us. And I think if all of us can see who Hannah was and what happened in her life and how God moved in her life and how she trusted God, that it should encourage us. It should help to boost our faith and our trust in Him. And our trust in Him taking care of the dreams that He's blessed us with and not holding on to them too tightly, because they're His dreams that He's given us, right? They're His dreams that He can develop and to grow way better than we can ourselves. And so I want to talk about Hannah. And this mom, she wasn't a mom at first. She was barren. She was married, and she couldn't have a baby for a long time. And she was grieved. And then her husband, he goes, and because in that time, I believe it was okay to marry another woman if your first wife wasn't able to have babies. And so he married another wife, and she was able to have babies. And so she ridiculed Hannah. She talked down to her, and she called her names and said, "I can't believe you can't have kids," and just made her cry. And so you have Hannah here, this woman that was just trying to follow God and just asking God if she could just have a child. But I want to look at her story and the story of her son and see what happened because of her faith, because of her trust, because she didn't run away, because she ran to God and not away from Him, because she loved God and knew that He would take care of her. In 1 Samuel 1, verse 9, it says, "So Hannah arose after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli, the priest, was sitting on the seat by the doorposts of the tabernacle of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul and prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish." Look, she's in bitterness. It's not that she's bitter, like having this horrible attitude, like this bitter woman, but she's in bitterness of soul. You get this picture that this woman, she's wanted a child, a son for so long. And her soul is just twisted up and contorted because she's just like, I just want a baby. She was in grief and anguish. I mean, picture this woman there and just so bad wanting a child. So bad having this dream of what her life could be. So she cried out to God and asked Him and pleaded with Him. In verse 11 it says, "Then she made a vow and said, 'O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant.'" Now, first of all, I want to stop there and talk about, if you will look on. So all of a sudden, she's taking this moment, and not in a bad way, but she's saying, she's like making this vow with God. Anybody ever done that? God, if you will just do this in my life, or if you will just bless me with this, or help this dream that I have to be fulfilled, that I will serve you the rest of my life, or I will go into ministry, or I will go on the missions field, or any one of many things that I'm sure all of us have said to God, right? Oh, come on. Am I the only one that's done that? If you will only do this, then God, I will do this. It's great and all. It's not bad. But the problem is, are you going to keep your word when God keeps His? Are you going to follow through when God follows through? We say these things and then we just forget what we told God. Oh, man. She said, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant and remember me and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a male child, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come to his head. She says, I will give him back to you for him to serve you all the days of his life. And she says, no razor will come to his head, because just like Samson, he would be set apart. He would be this man wholly devoted to you. And it would be under these rules and guidelines that would help him to be in the will of God and to stay away from the bad stuff. And she said, I will set him apart. I will give him back to you. It's easy to say that you'll do that. The harder part comes when it's time to actually pay the bill, right? But when she prayed, Eli, the priest, he was there, and he saw her, and he's like, listen, because you know what, she was there, and she was crying out. She was in anguish and this bitterness of soul. And you can imagine that she was crying out to God and praying and wailing and weeping and all this stuff until she came to the point where there was no sound coming out of her voice, but her mouth was still moving. And so she's just like, oh, God, can you? And her mouth was moving, and Eli looks at her and he says, listen, lady, you probably need to stop drinking so much wine. I probably need to cut you off. This is in the Bible, I promise you. That's what it says. He thought she was drunk. Now what I get out of that is that it's a picture of how she was feeling. How powerful this anguish and this pain was, because she couldn't bear a child. She was just a mess. And she was crying out to God till she lost her voice, and she just didn't care who was around. This was a dream, a big, huge dream in her life, right? God, I have this dream. I want a son. If you give me a son, I will give him back to you. Verse 17, then Eli answered and said, go in peace. Because she said, no, I'm not drunk. I haven't even been drinking, but I'm just in anguish. I just have this grief because I can't have a child. So I've been talking up until now, but now I just can't get anything out. And he said, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you have asked of him. And she said, let your maidservant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. I don't know about you, but this woman was in so much pain and grief and anguish because she wanted this child. And it came to this moment where Eli saw her and said, hey, stop drinking. And she said, I'm not drinking, I'm just sad, and I just want a child. And I've cried out to him, and I've asked him for a child. And so this priest says, go in peace, and may God grant you your request. And she said, okay. I see, I don't know about you, but great faith and great trust in this mom here. She's not a mom yet, but in this woman, that this dream that she has, that she's been just wailing over and crying over, and she was messed up. And the priest said, go in peace. She's like, okay. I don't know about you, but I love that. Can we have that much faith and trust in God and who he is, that when he just speaks a word, it says, go in peace, because I will do it. Okay. I'm good. I'm great. God said he'll do it. And I'm going to believe that. I'm going to trust that. Because God is God and I'm not. Can we trust God in those moments when he speaks to us and not haggle with him and not beg him and not just argue with him? But God, it needs to be at this time, or this dream that I have, it needs to look exactly like this. God, I just need it this way. But if we just say, God, I have this dream and here it is. Please help it to come to fruition in my life. And he says, I will. Can we let him just do it? Can we let him take care of it and just go on in peace and worship God and pray, continue praying and trusting him, even in that middle time when we haven't received it yet? That's what faith is. That's what full trust in who God is. That's amazing. And that's what Hannah is showing us right here. Can we worship the Lord even before the answer comes? Even before the dream is made into reality in our lives? Even before God has shown us exactly what we want to see? Can we still trust him? Can we still have faith? So it came time. This is verse 20. It came to pass in the process of time that Hannah conceived and bore a son and called his name Samuel, saying, because I have asked for him from the Lord. God showed up. Hannah asked God to fulfill this dream of hers, to give her this request of hers. And she made a vow and promised. And God came through. So now it was time for her to honor her end of the bargain. And this is really the main point of the message that I really want to focus on, what I want to get to this latter part. This is all just a build-up, okay? This is all just the running up to the real meat of the message, and that is when God allows us to hold on to that dream, to actually grasp on, to actually give that into our hands for us to know, for us to see and to value and to hold. What are we going to do with that thing? Because we have a choice. We can live open-handed. We can live with our hand holding that thing, cherishing it, but allowing God to still work on it and through it and in it. We can live like I'm going to talk about right here with Hannah, where she gives that dream back to God. Says, God, here, I told you that I would give him to you for the rest of his life if you only brought a son into my life. We can do that, or we can hold on to that dream. God blesses us with many great things, but we can hold on to it and say, no, God, thank you so much. Oh, I love you, God. Thank you for this blessing or this thing that I've been asking for bringing me into this place in my life, or helping me with this situation, this thing. And then grab hold of it and walk away from the actual plan of God in your life. Because he's given it to you now. And so many times we forget that dream was brought to fruition because of him, and we've made vows and told God, I will serve you all of my life. I will do this if you just give me this son, this dream, this thing in my life. But when we receive that, are we going to be able to live open-handed, allowing him to move in it and to use it? Verse 24, now when she had weaned him, she took him up with her. She had told her husband, she's like, I'm not going yet. When they went to the temple, I need to wait. He says, wait till you wean him. Do as you see fit. But now he was weaned, and I don't know when that was. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I don't know. It's getting a little awkward to me, but he was weaned. But he was a child, this little this little baby. Can you imagine? This is not like a 12 or 13, 14-year-old when you're like, see ya, get out of, go live with somebody else because you're getting crazy. I know there's teen years. I've got a teenager. He's sitting back there. Are you listening? See? But this baby, not even a teenager, a baby. She goes and leaves him with the priest at the temple. She took him up with her with 3 bulls, 1 ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, and the child was young. Then they slaughtered a bull and brought the child to Eli, and she said, "Oh, my Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood by you here praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition, which I asked of him. Therefore, I also have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord." So they worship the Lord here. A couple of things. Not only did she bring her young child back to God and leave him there at the temple to serve God with the priest, but she brought a party with her. Not only did she take this dream of hers that she wanted so bad that she made a vow with God back to the temple like she said she would, but she had a party. She said, "I'm happy. I'm not begrudgingly giving this child or this dream back to God. I'm not walking away angry." But just like she had through this whole scripture, she was in grief, but she's worshiped. She had, heard the word of the Lord, so she had worshiped. And now she's in this moment where she weaned her child and was going to leave him at the altar. But she worshiped and loved God and prayed and said all these great things about God and who she was. It's unbelievable. Can we take in our lives these things that God has given to us and hold them so open-handed and worship God and trust him so much that we can be like Hannah and just be like, "God, I know that you have given me this dream or this opportunity you've given me, whatever it is. This thing that I'm holding here, and I know that it's from you, but God, I want to give it back to you, and I don't want to do that begrudgingly. I don't want to do that with a sour face and just like, God, I mean, sometimes I feel like that's how we do it, But come to him and say, "God, look what I have to give back to you because you've blessed me with it. God, can I just worship you and throw this party and slaughter this bull, And just look, let's eat, drink, and be merry. Because I can give back to you this blessing that I would not have had if you hadn't given it to me." So that's what she did. She left her son there. She left her dream at the altar. What does it mean to leave your dream with God, to give it back, to be open-handed with God? See, because, I'm not asking you to leave your kids up here. Please don't, actually. Actually, will you take mine? You can take my kids. Just don't leave your kids here. No, I'm not asking that. I'm not saying that. But there's so many things that God has given to us, his people, these dreams, these aspirations that we have, and he's been a blessing to us and blessed us with those things and been a good God and given us those things. But what happens after we have those things in our hand? Do we hold on to them too tightly for God to use? Do we hold on to them too tightly for God to still work in? Because let me tell you, when he blesses you, just like, see, with Samuel here and Hannah, it was a child. It was a baby. Just imagine that blessing, that dream that you asked God for. It's not going to be the fullness of what it is whenever you get it into your hand, whenever He blesses you with it. But imagine what could happen whenever you give that to God and He brings it up. He raises that child. He raises that dream up under His wings. And all of a sudden, that dream, that child with Hannah, that thing in your life that you've allowed God to hold on to instead of you holding on too tight to it yourself. Imagine that thing and how it grows and it becomes this wonderful thing because God is moving in it. See, my hand is not necessarily a small hand, but it's just this big. That dream that God gives me, that He blesses me with, that I've asked Him for, if I hold on to that and I say, God, I got that, let me take care of it. I've got it under control. You don't have to do anything anymore. That thing may grow just a little bit. I may be able to nurture that dream and be able to help it to grow a little bit. You know, maybe wean it like Hannah did to the child. You know, now this thing's not, you know, it's an infant, not a baby anymore, this dream of mine. But my hand is not that big. But God's hand is. See, if you allow God to take that thing, that dream, that situation, whatever it is, and you say, God, you hold this thing. I don't want to hold it. I would love for you to take this instead of me taking control of it. Imagine what it could grow into. And I'm going to get into that because I think that's a huge part of this story. But that's what Hannah did. She gave that dream back to God and said, God, I made a vow to you, and I will give him back to you. But she didn't just leave him there and never see him again, because it says that she came back. And she came back and brought him a robe and clothes, and she visited him. And I love that picture because God gives us our dream. He gives us the thing that we've asked for, but how is it supposed to look when we walk forward in that dream? I believe that it's supposed to look that we say, here, God, now I want you to have control of this dream, but can you allow me to be a part and to bring things into it also? Because I know that I have a little bit that I can contribute, that I can help this dream, this child, you know, that I can bless it, you know, with a little bit of clothing or whatever. But God, you teach it. You help this dream to grow. You help this thing to be all that it's supposed to be, God, because it's yours and you've blessed me with it. So God, I want you to have full control. But just can I have a part in it? Can I help you, God, in this thing? That's what I see out of this story, and I believe that why was this story in the Bible? I believe because, of who Hannah was and what she did and how it changed the course of history. Because what it says here later in chapter 2, verse 12, it says, now the sons of Eli were corrupt. They did not know the Lord. These are the sons of the priests that blessed Hannah, that told her, go in peace. May God grant your request that you've asked him. His own sons were corrupt and didn't know God. These are the guys that were supposed to follow after him and to help to speak into the nation of Israel, to speak to God's people. And there was going to be no one there to do that after Eli. But Hannah allowed this dream that God had given her to be placed back in his hands. So it wasn't, just Samuel growing up to run daddy's farm and to take care of daddy's finances, and so that eventually whenever his dad passes away, he can take control of the family estate and live a good life. That would have been a good life. It would have been okay. But look what happens because she gives him to God. She gives that dream to God, and all of a sudden it's not now just a wonderful son that can help dad and eventually take over for dad whenever he passes away. But all of a sudden, he becomes a mouthpiece of God. He becomes the man, instead of Eli's sons, because they were wicked, he becomes the one that speaks to Israel, speaks truth. And he even anoints King Saul and King David. He brought about the time of the kings by listening to what God was saying and anointing the new king. And in Judges, it said, in those days was no king in Israel, and everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Judges, which I believe that Samuel was the one that wrote Judges because he grew up in this time, and now he's speaking as to what was the outlook of Israel in this moment. He said there was no king, and everybody was just doing what they wanted. It was mayhem. You didn't have any rules and laws because there was no king. But because Hannah had taken this wonderful dream, this son that God had given her, and not held tightly to it, because she didn't say, no, I got control of it, God, I'll take care of this, but she gave it back to God, like she promised she would, that Samuel was able to bring the kings into the people of Israel and help change the course of history for this nation. I don't know about you, but I think that's amazing. What about our dreams and those things that God has been speaking to us and that we now have and He's placed those in our hands? They can end up being a nice little dream that grow as big as we can grow them, or what if we place them back in God's hands and see how much God can do with them? What if we say, right? What is it to place our dreams back into God's hands? It's to say, God, if you want to change it, change it. If you want to grow it, grow it. If you want to change me, change me. Do whatever you want to do. God, do whatever you want to do in this situation or in this thing that you've given me. God, I don't have control. You do. Just let me help, God. Just let me be a part, and I'll be completely happy. I'll bring a robe and make him some new clothes, you know? Just let me help as you take this thing into the levels of glory that I could never do. In 1 Samuel 2, verse 18, it says, but Samuel ministered before the Lord, even as a child, wearing a linen ephod. Moreover, but listen, his mother used to make him a little robe. A little robe. I love it says little, you know. He was still young. But he ministered before the Lord. It doesn't matter how old you are. I was talking about my son back here, Miles. He's going to be 14, but he helps do the lights. And we had Slade doing the drums, and he's 12, and it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're older or younger or in between. It doesn't matter. God can use you. You can minister to Him with the gifts that He's given you, whether it's drums or helping technically in whatever way, or just doing whatever God's blessed you with and using it for His glory and for His good. Doesn't matter how old you are. But I love this. And she would bring it year by year when she came up with her husband to offer a yearly sacrifice. And Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, the Lord give you descendants from this woman for the loan that was given to the Lord. Then they would go to their own home. When they came and saw Samuel and gave him his little robe and you spent time with him, that Eli would bless them, and he would pray for them and say, God bless you. And I pray that the Lord blesses you because you have given your dream back to God. And do you know what happened? That very next verse, it says, and the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and bore 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the child Samuel grew before the Lord. Whoa! Because she gave Samuel back to God, not only did he grow to this man of God that was able to help Israel in such a great way, but then God still blessed her and gave her 3 more sons and 2 more daughters and blessed her in a way that she was, I'm sure, blown away by. Like, God's not going to take this dream and say, yes, you need to give it back to me and help, let me do with it what I want, and then just let you sit over there and not let you do anything or not let you be a part or not bless you more than you can possibly imagine. But if we can give that stuff, we can give that dream or that thing back to God and say, God, it's yours to do whatever you wish. That when he takes that, he'll help it to become something more than we could ever dream. That he'll use it in such a great way that we could not possibly even bring to pass on our own. And not only that, he will take and send more and more blessings our way. Say, you lent your child to me is what, God's like, you lent your child to me. Thank you so much. I'm going to send you 5 more children. You lent your dream to me. You give it back into my hands. I'm going to give you 5 more things, 5 more great things. 5 more dreams of your heart. 5 more blessings in your household or your family. I'm going to give them. He's not going to be like, thanks, see ya. You sit there in all your, loneliness. If you give it back to him, he's only going to give you more. He's only going to bless you and take care of you and give you more of the desires of your heart. Amen? But can we hold our hands open and say, God, I want you to take control of this dream, this thing that I have here that you've blessed me with. Can we not close our hand? Can we open it up and say, God, I want you to take control and I just want to be a part. Let me help you. Let me do whatever you want me to do in this situation or in this dream, but you take control, God. I give it back to you. Amen. Why don't you stand with me?